This week, we will focus on a very interesting topic, high energy physics. Let's discuss how science is accelerated at CERN. My guest is from Boğaziçi University, Dr. Bora Akgün. He has been doing research at CERN on CMS Experiment. CMS detector has been running since 2009 and published important scientific results. Let's hear what he has to say. What research topics are focused at CERN?
Hi, thanks for having me. As you mentioned, CERN is a high energy physics laboratory, a particle physics laboratory that is located in Geneva, Switzerland. And it has been operational since 1954. And the purpose that this laboratory has been formed and people all around the world has been working there as scientists. And to give a number, I think there are more than 10,000 scientists working at CERN, not necessarily physically at CERN, but participating in the experiments. And the purpose of this laboratory is to understand the constituents of matter and how those constituents, these particles, interact with each other. And these questions are fundamental and important because it is everything we see, everything around us. And it is everything that we are also made of, but the universe itself is made of. So answering these questions would also tell us a lot about the universe that we live in, both today and at the very beginning, right? We are trying to probe the time right after the Big Bang and try to understand how things were, how universe were back then. And in order to answer these questions, we need to conduct experiments. We have a very strong theory division at CERN, but on top of that, we have very important experiments that we are conducting at CERN. And the main research program that CERN has relies on a set of accelerators that would accelerate protons and lead ions, actually, to very high energetic speeds that are very close to speed of light. And when we accelerate these particles, we also bunch them. We put them together as if they are in a compartment of a train, right? And we accelerate a certain beam, a certain train in clockwise direction and yet another beam in the counterclockwise direction. And the moment we reach speeds that are really close to speed of light, we smash these two trains, two beams together, a head-on collision. And the reason we do that is Albert Einstein was right, and E is really equals to mc squared. And what that means is energy that pops up right after this collision, the E part of this equation, leads to new particles, new M's, new masses that move very fast. And since this collision had happened at the center of our detectors, the devices that we built to observe the outcome, the purpose of these detectors is to identify the particle types, measure their energy, momentum, and electric charge. While doing so, right, we are taking a snapshot, like an information snapshot of what had happened right after that collision. And since these trains are moving with speeds which is very close to speed of light, we have a lot of collisions at a unit time. So we have a lot of statistics. And this beauty of smashing trains is that in the end, you don't necessarily have trains as outcome. You can have an automobile or a ship or a plane, right? We smash protons, but at the end of that collision, we can have many different types of particles, and we can study every single property of these particles. And these particles do not necessarily belong to today, to the daily life. That the things that we see are mostly proton, neutron, and electron, right? But at the early stages of the universe, right after Big Bang, there were many different types of particles, and we can only study them in labs like CERN with accelerators like Large Hadron Collider, and the detectors that I work for, like CMS. With these gadgets, we can understand the constituents of the matter properly.
What important results CMS has published so far?
CMS, the LHC program is been going on since late 2009. And CMS has been publishing scientific papers as early as 2010. And I think on average, we have been publishing more than 100 papers. The scope of these papers differ slightly. Some scientific papers reports on certain discoveries or attempts to discover something new. And if you don't have the discovery with the data you have, you put exclusion limits, right? Or certain other types of scientific papers that we have focus on measurements. Measurements of something that we already knew at a lower energy in a different regime. And now we are trying to measure it in this regime to understand the fundamental laws better. So we have papers on that front as well. Not everything is for a discovery of a new particle. You can try to go after a particle that that exists, but you can try to measure a certain property of it in a better way, because that would lead you understand the fundamental dynamics that drives those interactions. And there is yet another form of scientific papers that we publish, and that focuses on not the discoveries or the measurements, but the development of the tools that led us to these discoveries and measurements. So the papers on detector technologies and how we improve things, why we improve things, and how we can further improve things and what else it can be used for is also rather relevant.
What is the most significant discovery CMS had, and should we expect more discoveries?
So far, we published more than 1,000 papers, but the most important publication, the most important discovery that we had so far was the discovery of the Higgs boson, simply because it was the last missing piece of a very beautiful picture that we call standard model that explains the interactions of fundamental particles. And it was also important in the sense that this particle has been foreseen in 1964. So we needed to wait almost half a century to discover it. And that's an effort by a lot of people. This was the most important discovery because it somewhat wrapped the standard model, wrapped the theory that we put together over the years very beautifully. But the second half of your question should be, or should you expect more or new discoveries? Yes, of course you should. And the new results will come in different flavors. We are improving our measurements, right? We are improving our search techniques, both computationally and by improving our detectors. And LHC is improving its energy. We will going to have eventually, we will have more particles colliding at higher energy. So this is a step-by-step process. And this will lead us to probe a new regime where we hope to see new things. What those new things can be, there are few important candidates, let's say. One of them is supersymmetry. It is possible to find a totally new symmetry of the universe that we call supersymmetry. It can be certain candidates for fundamental things that we don't fully understand, like dark matter or dark energy. It is possible not very likely, but possible. We can get some hints on the concept of extra dimensions, maybe, just maybe. And also, the beauty of all this is there might be something, there might be a new discovery that we can't even foresee, we can't even expect. I don't know what is the right phrase. It's something that would surprise us altogether. And as long as scientific labs like CERN continues to take data and analyze that data, there will always be more discoveries.
Thank you, Dr. Akgün. We have opened the doors to CERN today. I learned a lot about high energy physics. I hope to talk to you soon on further developments.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.